butts in seats.
All right, so Baylor men's basketball lost L.J. Cryer to Houston. Dale Bonner's in the transfer portal. They really nothing really other than what they have with their class of 2023, and 3 of those guys were a part of that Hoop Summit this past weekend. In fact, the kid from Duke that is now wanting to rescind his national letter of intent was a part of the Hoop Summit as well. So what is Baylor men's basketball doing? I think there's a quote that I received from somebody today. Silence can be wisdom. Now, sometimes silence can create a vacuum. I saw Bob Thompson use that earlier about the Pac-12 and silence. But silence can be wisdom. So I asked somebody, right now, I think what Baylor's doing is they're circling the wagons because the ceiling of the NIL has changed. What everyone thought was the ceiling last year would settle this year. That hasn't happened. The ceiling has gone up. At some point, there's going to be a market, what do you call that, when it kind of gets back to itself. So right now, do your analytics.
Market correction.
Market correction. Analytics. Whatever budget you have, what is your patience level on making sure you worry about what Adam Flagler's going to do and Jalen Bridges? If one or both of them come back, that answers 2 of your questions right there. Yeah. But you got to be careful because that may take some time. But I'm being told there are plenty of players in the portal at the highest levels of the transfer portal that are very much, their radar includes Waco, Texas, and wanting to play for a team that just 2 or 3 years ago won the national title.
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to have a problem getting people or wait. Like this is not a team that's in kind of rebuild mode or transition or anything like that. This is a team that's now one of the premier basketball programs in the country with a premier coaching staff and all of that. So. I mean, if you want to make your decision really fast, Baylor's probably not in that loop. But if you have some time to wait on Bridges and Flagler and just kind of want to see where everything is, Baylor's going to be a great place for you. And if Bridges and Flagler come back, to me, you really only have to get one thing, and that is your new, villain.
Yeah, I just don't think that they're going to be able to win many of the first to 10 million, types of players. Maybe they outbid everybody else when it came to Keontae George's NIL. But I feel like they can probably do that maybe once a year for one guy, if that, every single year. I guess if you have the Keontae George type guys interested, then you'll do what it takes. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of pull here, but there's also that element of it as well. I'm not worried about them attracting talent. But the NIL piece is, obviously a major factor. But I think that to the best of their abilities, they can pony up and put together a very fine championship-level roster with certainly championship-level coaching. It's just that there's, a bit of a transition now. And, who saw L.J. Cryer, making the move that he did? I guess it was kind of talked about. But it's just, it's a time of transition, a lot of questions, so I can see why people are a little bit nervous.
All right, so here's another thing. Now, this is from – I sent this out to some high school coaches and also kind of contacted some guys who were in college athletics, whether assistant coaches or football coaches or whoever else. One of the things that's happening right now with why the transfer portal is important, you guys know this, how many on average? There's 360. Garrett, I'm going to let you answer first. 363 Division I men's basketball programs. On average, how many players per roster are in the transfer portal right now?
Oh, I would say 3 per roster.
Okay.
Probably 3.
I'd say 3 per roster.
Craig? Paul?
Yeah, I would say 3 to 4.
5 plus.
Jeez.
On average. Now, there's some rosters that might be 0, 1, or 2, and there's some might be 8. On average, 5 plus, that's 1,500 players. If I'm doing my math, maybe 1,600 players are in the portal. And one of the things that's happened is even if players enter the portal and really are not looking elsewhere, what are they getting? Attention. Infatuation. Nothing they do right now is anything but right. And nothing they do right now is wrong. Everyone's perfect. Everyone's right. Everyone's good, right? Yeah. Because you're getting the attention. And that's one of the things that we see. Okay, there's 5 plus in the portal. How many of them in the end will actually be playing basketball next year at the same level or higher? And that remains to be seen.
Do you mean like kind of how when you sign your recruiting class, you just assume everybody's going to be the best version of themselves,
Yeah.
and you don't ever go like, well, this class is kind of okay.
Yep.
You just go like, nope, top 15 class, this national championship upcoming, and you don't realize, like, you don't even acknowledge that 3 years later, 15 of the 22 signees are no longer even on the roster, and 4 of them aren't even up to star rating, and 3 of them panned out. Is that kind of what you're saying a little bit?
Everyone gets to go and get re-recruited again, and they get all the bells and whistles and the perks and all of that and the attention like they did when they were coming out of high school, and now they get to do it as freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors.
Well, I mean, that's the way it works. You know, I mean, for better or worse, I definitely think that there's no absolute here. It's not like it's all bad. It's definitely worked out well for some. I mean, a guy who ends up,
for Scott.
like if you're Royce O'Neal and you're starting your career at LIU,
Denver.
I was thinking of Torian Prince actually, but or Torian Prince, LIU, Brooklyn, and then you end up at Baylor. Like that's where they belong. They're both, you know, well, Torian's still in the NBA.
Royce is too, right?
Yeah, Royce is still. Yeah, you're right. Royce is still there. I don't know why I'm getting those guys all messed up, but yeah, I mean those are 2 examples of a lot of guys who clearly, for whatever reason, whatever it was that didn't get them highly recruited to begin with, or people back off, or whatever the case may be. I mean, they're getting that bump up, and that's deserved. That wouldn't happen without the transfer portal necessarily. So I think that's great. Guys who deserve to be compensated are being compensated, but I mean, I think in any industry you look at, there's going to be those attention seekers. And I think in today's world, as old man as it sounds, I mean, it's the TikTok generation. We know the deal. We know that everything's about how many, you know, likes and all that. So that's part of the equation now. I mean, whether you like it or not, the days of like the quiet athlete or any of that kind of stuff, that's all overboard now. That's way in the past at this stage. So you better be able to embrace and work well with those types of personalities, or you better have just a very stoic and focused and not about the attention type of a roster. But it seems like those are going to be kind of hard to put together.
All right, so there's a little bit of that. It's that is who and what Baylor's dealing with. But so is Virginia Commonwealth, or so is Kansas State, or so is even some of the schools that may have the heavier and higher numbers to use in the NIL. The market correction has not happened. At some point, perhaps it will. Craig Smoak's on his way to go watch football practice. We'll be back a little bit later in the show.
Yeah, I only got 6 practices left before the end of spring ball, so I want to check out as much as I can. But yeah, I mean, that market correction, I think that's another mistake by college leaders, was to assume that, oh, well, it'll correct itself. Sounds like, you know, kind of waiting for others to do the job for you, or for time to do the job for you, and not realizing like, oh no, you don't realize this is like a whole new business. This is not going away. This is only going to explode and grow into a whole nother mammoth gargantuan thing. So another pretty poor miscalculation, thinking that was all just going to settle like dust.
The hay is out the barn. Go ahead, Craig.